It's really about the hybrid customer and the customer who's looking at multi-cloud strategies and customers who are looking at application modernization across their stack. And it's the integration between our two technologies for on-prem and in the cloud that really lights up customers' needs.
Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series, where we speak with Microsoft Cloud senior leaders and experts about the latest trends in technologies we're seeing in the market. The goal of this series is to share with you and your teams our perspective on the business value driven by the Microsoft Cloud for our mutual customers, and the opportunities for our partners to grow their business with Microsoft.
Hello and welcome. On today's episode, we'll delve into ways that you can accelerate cloud adoption and uncover hidden opportunities by moving workloads to Azure with VMware. My name is Jackie Kemp, and I'm a senior partner marketing advisor focused on driving the end-to-end global GTM strategy with some of Microsoft's top strategic global ISVs. As your host for today, I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker, Shaun Hirschman. Shaun is the Microsoft Global Director and Partner Development Manager for our partner, VMware. Welcome, Shaun. Would you mind giving us some insight into your background?
Sure thing, and thank you. I'm happy to be here to discuss our fantastic partnership between Microsoft and VMware and what we think the value of that partnership is to customers and partners surrounding that business. Just to give you a little bit about myself for the folks listening, I have been in the industry for a little over 20 years. I started off on the engineering side of the house. So I was a Windows systems admin, system engineer in the hosting space before joining Microsoft. And I would say about 10 years into that, and also 10 years ago, I swapped from the engineering side of things into the sales and go-to-market side of the business, where my technical background has actually been very helpful. But in full transparency to everyone watching or listening, we're definitely not strangers, Jackie. So maybe you can take a few seconds to talk about yourself to the folks as well.
Sure, thank you. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Shaun for the last 2 years as the Global ISV Partner Marketing Advisor supporting VMware as well. I've been in the technology industry for a little over 14 years, working across various sales and marketing roles. I supported a range of partners in our ecosystem that included LSPs, global ISVs, GSIs, and some advisory partners. But before we dive into the details of the opportunities for our partners, Shaun, can you share your perspective on why the partnership between Microsoft and VMware is important in the context of cloud adoption and digital transformation for our enterprise customers?
I think so. Let me give it a spin. So I think before we even go into that, context about the partnership probably is warranted, because if you think historically about VMware and Microsoft, years ago, we might be seen in the market as pure competitors. And that's actually a true statement. We are competitors in some ways. But I think over the years, that relationship has evolved into a truly cooperative and collaborating partnership between both Microsoft and VMware. As what we've focused our energies around is actually at the customer level, meeting the customer's needs where they need us both. And that happens to be really in the hybrid modernization side of the business, which maps really well with Azure and VMware. And if you think about VMware's kind of market share from an on-premise perspective and virtualization, if you think about virtualization of choice and on-prem, it's definitely VMware's technology stack, which is around 4.5 billion as an overall kind of TAM, which we think is actually going to grow probably anywhere like 4 to 5x that by 2030. And so really it's about taking their strengths of on-prem virtualization and solutions that they're supporting their customers with, and our strengths on Azure across the cloud and our services that really meets the demand at the middle. So where we think this works is, customers' needs are complex, especially in a hybrid cloud scenario. Even if they're evolving and modernizing their infrastructure, they're going to need help. We can help, VMware can help, but at the end of the day, to really get through those complex tasks, that's where partners really have that opportunity. And this space is really going to continue to evolve and revolve around that.
It's great that you mentioned that. We have a massive opportunity for our partners where they can lean in more with VMware and Microsoft that we'll actually be discussing later in our chat. But what specific advantages do you see in the integration of VMware solutions with Microsoft Azure?
Yeah, so just to reiterate a little bit, if I were to think about everything, it's really about the hybrid customer and the customer who's looking at multi-cloud strategies and customers who are looking at application modernization across their stack. And it's the integration between our two technologies for on-prem and in the cloud that really lights up customers' needs. And so we're leveraging everything inside of the VMware investment on Azure as well. We actually have some unique examples around that. So we have like AVS or Azure VMware solutions, or if you think about their Tanzu solution on top of Azure, we really surround those types of needs from the customers with Azure native services as well. So if you think about it end to end, you've got their on-prem workloads, you've got the public workloads, all supported at the infrastructure layer. They have services, we also have services, and together we can really meet those needs. So we have some other great examples of that. Like if you think about their virtual desktop space, they have a product called Horizon. There's a Horizon on Azure solution as well that is really about virtual desktops. And we've looked at that from a customer lens and said, what do we need there to make sure that customers are having a complete experience? And so we have integrations with native Azure services like Azure Virtual Desktop and even Windows 365.
Could you highlight some real world examples or success stories where the Microsoft and VMware partnership have made a significant impact?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can think of two examples that come to mind. We do have some external case studies on them, and many more success stories for that matter. But the first one that comes to mind is Carhartt Gears. They in their business they had a compelling moment, right? In that moment, they're reevaluating their hardware and should they continue to invest in that during their refresh cycle. And so they made a decision and calculation that, from their perspective, they felt like they're going to get a better ROI if they shifted from CapEx to OpEx. Now, this is a common theme that we see across the business, especially when you're talking about on-prem customers. It's not always a full, transition from OpEx or from CapEx to OpEx, and sometimes it's a, partial. But in this example, there was a need to migrate, which is one of those opportunities, 400 servers into Azure, but specifically that sits on AVS, which is Azure VMware Solutions, which is still VMware technology. So Carhartt got to leverage their existing investments in the VMware tooling and skill sets in their folks and got to expand to the cloud without having to rip and replace their infrastructure. The second opportunity I'll bring to mind is Bosch. They have a very developer focused lens on their business. That's not to say they don't have IT or infrastructure needs from that perspective, but I think when they were making their decisions for their compelling moments, they were thinking about that end-to-end developer experience. Do our teams need to really produce fantastic solutions at a rapid pace? And so they did an evaluation as well. So what they ended up doing, because they had a lot of Java applications, was evaluating their options. A common evaluation is, Kubernetes. Kubernetes has been around for quite some time as being that underlying stack that people start with. But people come to realize that Kubernetes, while super powerful, also makes it very complex. So you now need to build that skill set and that infrastructure in-house if you don't already have it. To start utilizing it. So we see a lot of customers actually doing a mix between Kubernetes and, say, a managed service like actual Azure Spring Apps, which is another Microsoft service that is based off of VMware technology, designed specifically to support Spring Java workloads. Now, partners are often, as a part of this conversation, is helping customers move their workloads up or even modernize them, and they see Kubernetes stack as an opportunity space, and it certainly is, right? Because it is complex, and managed services become more and more needed for customers. But things like Azure Spring Apps, which is a fully managed service, works alongside Kubernetes as well for the customer's end-to-end Java needs.
Wow, migrating 400 virtual machines sounds like a massive job. From a partner perspective, how does the VMware and Microsoft relationship create unique opportunities for partners to lean in more in helping our customers migrate these sort of workloads?
That is actually a great question. So there's a lot of opportunities for our partners. Some of these opportunities partners are already taking advantage of. But if I were to list through some of the big ones, want to make sure that partners are thinking about their deployment and managed services business. Really, as customers are migrating to the cloud or thinking about hybrid scenarios, sometimes they want to take some of that workload off of themselves and obviously work with partners. And we're seeing a lot of that in the business between VMware customers and Azure customers. You can even start thinking about how do you package your services with VMware on Azure as a part of the Azure Marketplace and the newly launched multi-party private offers. You can actually couple your services along with VMware technology into a single offering for customers. And that becomes a really powerful way to actually engage customers if you're not already using that today. And so we have a ton of kind of stackable benefits when you're thinking about engaging customers and resources to really help you go after that. We do have an AMP program inside of Microsoft, and it's really geared around enabling service integrators a leg up in acceleration and helping drive customers from that first part of the sales cycle all the way down to deployment. And there's things to leverage on the VMware side of the house as well. So there's actually a customer lifecycle incentives program where they have a myriad of resources as well that you can couple with our resources to really help you kind of accelerate that business. On the other side of the house, we've been thinking about what does it mean to partner with the VMware business and the Microsoft business. So we've kickstarted, actually, Jackie and I built this program. I say we built it, but Jackie pretty much runs all of it at this stage. And it's really about enabling partners to how to go after the business with VMware on Microsoft, on Azure specifically. And that comes with resourcing, that comes with marketing materials. We have a whole slew of resources that get you kind of kickstarted on the primary businesses that we go to market with together as a part of that program. Supporting those programs, you can certainly think about, training and certification opportunities if you haven't already. There's definitely opportunities for partners to train and certify on the newest service like Azure Spring Apps Enterprise, which is very hot in the Java space.
So let's talk about some of those customer examples where we've seen our partners leverage their services to help these customers move forward.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the Carhartt example that we talked about earlier, right? So just as a refresher, right, there was an opportunity for the partner to help that customer move over 400 VMs, but rarely does the opportunity, stop there. Migration is one part of the story. Usually, there's a reason for that migration. The customer wants to evolve their infrastructure. They want to change how they're actually thinking about their infrastructure and their goals going forward. So one of the things that this opened up for the partner that did this work is, as a part of that, they now have a manage and monitor service that they're providing to Carhartt as a managed service. Just being introduced into this kind of more simple lift and shift kind of engagement opened up a broader kind of managed services engagement. So that ended up being a very lucrative thing for that partner as well. And on the Bosch side of the house, one thing I'll just re-articulate there. If we remember, they're bringing some of their Java workloads up into Azure Spring Apps. Azure Spring Apps is a fully managed service. That means it can be as simple as just dropping your jar file and it'll figure out the infrastructure for you. And if you're a partner, might think, well, what am I supposed to do there? I have this fully managed service. Really, the opportunity is not only with that, I'll say, initial uploading of those applications, because they still need to make sure that they work, still need to make sure that they're compliant, that there's security. But usually those types of applications are never on their own. They're always coupled by other applications, either supporting or working alongside them, that for various reasons require extra level tuning and control by the customer. Things that you can't do in a fully managed service. So that means you have to work on, say, for instance, the Kubernetes stack, where you actually have much more control, and that works alongside. So now you have this opportunity space where you've got this fully managed service and you've got these other supporting apps sitting on a less managed infrastructure, I'll say. But it's the plane of those two infrastructures that really need to be cohesive for the customer to be successful. And that's really where partners have opportunity. So if we think about the migration plus the integration plus security plus governance plus guidance or compliance, all of that above really is where the partners can shine.
As an executive in the tech industry, what excites you the most about this partnership and how it can shape the future of cloud adoption?
Yeah, I've been working in this space for quite some time and with VMware for a number of years now. And it's really in a part of the industry that's near and dear to my heart. If you think about back where I came from the web hosting space. So I'm very familiar with, virtualization, server management, that side of the house. But hybrid cloud, multi-cloud needs from a customer perspective. I mean, these types of needs are going to be around for as long as I could probably foresee. Our customers are going to continue to evolve around that. They're going to continue to change. The industry itself is going to change. But really, Microsoft and VMware, with the help of partners, of course, to be successful, are actually in the best position to help lead customers through these changes. When I think about that industry, I think about evolution and revolution. It's always these are always key phrases that get thrown around quite a bit. And the reason they do is because they're not going anywhere. To my earlier analogy, it's just like the sun, right? These changes and needs are self-feeding. They never go away, like the sun, at least in our lifetime.
Shaun, thank you so much for sharing your insights and the exciting possibilities of VMware and Microsoft joint solutions. You covered a whole lot today. What three main points would you like partners to leave with from our chat today?
Oh man, okay. So I was never a big fan of the three-legged stool. So I'm going to answer your question in one reply. I'm going to say migration, modernization, and managed services. Those are three huge areas of business that are available between VMware and Microsoft. VMware, going back to my earlier point, owns 70% of the on-prem market. A lot of that market is thinking about hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. If you want to be a part of that, we're directly in the center of that.
Where can partners go to learn more?
There's a link to the Microsoft Alliance information page that sits on VMware.com. Please visit there to get your start on where that opportunity can begin.
Thank you, Shaun. It was a pleasure having you today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
As we conclude today's episode, remember that the Microsoft and VMware partnership offers you, our partners, a valuable opportunity to enhance your service portfolio, provide comprehensive solutions, and better serve your customers in an increasingly hybrid and multi-cloud world. This partnership can give Microsoft partners a competitive edge and help you grow your businesses. Stay tuned for more exciting discussions on cutting-edge technologies and their impact on the business landscape. Until next time, thank you for joining us and have a great day.
And that wraps up today's episode. Don't forget that this episode is a part of a series featuring some of our most experienced and innovative global executives, packed full of great insights and examples of how to make the most out of working alongside Microsoft. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our other episodes. No matter your industry or area of focus, the Microsoft Global Partner Enablement team is here to enable you and your teams to achieve more. If you want to hear a little more of this episode, we have a podcast which has some more of our discussion and some bonus content. If there's an area of cloud innovation you'd like to hear more about, please send us a note at salesenablement-gsi@microsoft.com so that we can create content that meets your enablement needs. Thank you for listening, thank you for engaging with us, and thank you for being a Microsoft partner. We'll see you on the next episode of the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series.